Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to a brand new day. We're happy to have you here once again for WACREN 2019 conference. This is day 2, the last day. We have been having some wonderful moments, beginning Monday through yesterday. We've had the Lip Sense workshop, the Africa Connect 2 administration meeting, and Africa Connect 3 prep meeting. And we also had the Lip Sense focus group discussions. WACREN had a board meeting. Then yesterday we kickstarted a conference right here in this auditorium. Before we start the plenary session for this morning, we want to have Microsoft doing a presentation to us, and that's going to be led by Jay Shirabi. So Jay and his team are here. Shall we welcome them with a round of applause? All right, whilst we wait for Jay, I trust that those who are here for the first time, those who are in Ghana for the first time, you're enjoying your time in Ghana. How are you finding the proverbial Ghanaian hospitality? Are you enjoying it? All right. Ghana is noted for hospitality, and we do our best to keep that. So keep enjoying. And I guess yesterday you had a very nice time at Plus 233, right? We saw some of the videos on Twitter. Yeah, just to let you know once again, today we are streaming live on YouTube. So anyone who's not here, your colleagues who are not here, please, we'll be tweeting. We have already tweeted the link, YouTube link. Please keep sharing, keep retweeting Facebook and Twitter so that other people across the world will see it. The hashtag is WACREN 2019. Thank you. Is Jay ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're ready. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? Hope so. Okay. Oh, he wants me to move more here. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Claudia Johnston. I'm from the Microsoft Middle East Africa organization. I work across the education sector in Africa. Previously, I actually ran the education sector business for Microsoft South Africa. So I've been involved now in education for many years, working with universities and schools across the continent. So we just want to spend a few minutes speaking to you today about what Microsoft does in higher education, and also to just introduce some of the team members. So to begin with, I'm going to be joined by Jay Shirabi. Jay is our education solution specialist. He focuses on cloud solutions, and he's also working with a lot of higher education institutions across the continent. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I'm hoping, sorry, we're just trying to get to the next slide here. Chris, can you just push it to the next slide? Is I think all of you, we don't need to spend too much time on this, but all of you are seeing a lot of challenges in higher education, not least of all the type of teaching and learning experience that your students want. So if you're going to continue sort of operating your universities and delivering teaching and learning in the methods you always have, there's so much competition from outside sources, you're going to start to lose students. Also, I was talking to one of the CIOs yesterday, and he was telling me one of his big challenges was the reinvention of credentials, the fact that the students need their certifications available online and being able to digitally transfer those to employees and so on. So there's a lot happening in higher education, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think all of you are living this right now. Can we have the next slide? So if we look, from a Microsoft perspective, when it comes to digital transformation in higher education, we really look at four elements. And we're going to go quickly through these. And the team is here today, so please come and talk to us about it, because we can unpack it all in a lot more detail. The first element is what we call connected experiences. So how do we improve that engagement between the students, the faculty, the parents, the stakeholders? You know, what sort of solutions do you need for that? The next element, which really talks to this conference, is limitless research. The fact that you have so much more research happening, so much more data coming in through research, and how do you process and analyze and work with all of that. Then we talk about effective institutions. So how do you make sure that your institution is not only cost effective, but it's the highest performing institution, and it's competitive with all these other institutions coming into your market. And then finally, this concept of lifelong learning. Students today are not generally students who are going to spend 4 years doing a degree. Students, I mean, if you look at what's happening in the United States, 50% of the students there are single parents who are actually doing their studies while they're working. So you need to actually gear up your campuses to provide students the ability to study different courses from anywhere. Next slide, please. So the first thing I want to talk about in terms of connected experiences is what you're doing with the current student information systems. I'm working with a lot of universities now who actually who replacing their legacy student information systems with these new modern SISs that allow the collaboration between the student and the institution. So managing the student from attracting students, recruiting them right through to alumni. And we've actually got a number of partners here today, and we're going to allow them to introduce themselves a bit later, who talk to this. So Microsoft, we have our own business application suite for finance and operations, for CRM, etc. But if you're getting into the nitty-gritty of managing a campus, you need to start looking at solution providers who specialize in this. So we've got here with us at the event, we've got Campus Management, we've got SIS Global, who represent Unit 4 across the continent. Serasoft, we had Hanli from Eiffel Corp, who represents the academia product set. Unfortunately, she's had to leave, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions or put you in touch with her. So please spend some time chatting to these guys, because they can really help you. And I can tell you, out of the 6 universities that I've introduced to these new SIS solutions, all of them had their own homegrown solutions. Every single one of them has moved to a modern solution to provide a much better experience to their students and to optimize their institution. Also, Microsoft has the Office 365 platform to provide a lovely collaborative experience for your students and faculty to engage. So if we can just go to the next slide, I just want to talk about Microsoft 365 quickly. So Microsoft 365 is our office productivity platform, and what's important for all of you to note is that it's free for academic institutions. But let me qualify that. The online version of Office 365 is free. So if you want to give your faculty or students email, websites, Skype for Business, whatever it is, that's free. The challenge is, certainly in our region, we acknowledge that there are connectivity issues, and a lot of our students don't have access to Wi-Fi all the time. So they need an experience where they can run the Office applications on their laptops or desktops or tablets. What we do there is we provide a licensing program where the university will license Office 365 for the faculty and staff, and that then entitles all the students to run that same software on their own devices for free. So please come and talk to any of us about it. We can tell you about the student use benefits. I can tell you that the universities that I worked with in South Africa, 26 out of 27 of those universities are all using this benefit. And even in the schools, we have more than 11 million kids leveraging the benefit. Next slide, please. So now I'm actually going to hand over to my colleague Jay. He's going to talk to you about research and our Azure computing platform, which is really the cornerstone of how we help you with research.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. And just to start off, I would like to run this short video just to kind of show you the power of technology when it's put in the right hands and how it can change lives. Go ahead and play the video, please.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Wow, what technology can do. Very powerful. But what I would like you to guys take out of this is not how powerful the technology is, but how powerful it is when it's used by the right people. The person that created that tool, that used the technology to change the lives of the disabled, it's himself, the blind man. It was not a bunch of engineers with perfect eyesight, but it was an engineer with the problem itself. So imagine what you can do, or how we can change the lives of our students if we get our students involved with the future technology, if we give them access to that technology. So let's not make the mistake and try to build the future for our students, but empower them to actually be prepared for that future. As FDR said in this next slide, I could not have said it better. Oops, we're going too quick. There you go. We cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can always build our youth for the future. So we are all here gathered today thinking, how can we make the students' life easier? We have librarians here. They're trying to create a system that would make access to books easier. We have teachers, professors, IT directors trying to make access to technology easier and faster. Imagine if we get those students involved in the process. Let's not forget we are doing this for them. We were student once, but we are yesterday's student. So let's not think or let yesterday's thinking influence how tomorrow's future should be. Get them involved. And this is where Microsoft have the cloud. I'm sure you've heard of it, Azure especially. We are opening up Azure to everyone. It is not directed at IT directors or IT personnel or only professors. It's for everyone. Students, professors, teachers, IT, developers, you name it. Everybody can contribute to the cloud. And speaking of cloud, currently today we have about 54 regions we cover, and the latest one that was announced just last week, it's in South Africa, which is operational. So finally we have a data center in the African continent that serves the African continent. What does that mean for you is low latency, quick access, so you don't have to wait for the website to load or the services to come down. You have access to everything in the continent within the country. So, which covers most of the data sovereignty issues for most countries, because as we know, that's one of the challenges. So hopefully we are answering, and we keep growing. So that's not the end of it. What is Azure services? What do we offer in Azure? Obviously, today we have over 700 services built by Microsoft, but the beauty of Azure, it is open, based out of open source. We use open source. We welcome open source. You can find pretty much every major open source product or platform runs on Azure. And Microsoft today is #1 contributor to open source platforms. You will see us in GitHub actively in most important projects. By the way, we own GitHub. We bought it, so we embrace the open source. So if you have open source, please bring it on. Azure is open source friendly. What can you do? You can do IaaS, PaaS, and if you can lower the image so that way people can see the different services. All right, and SaaS. I'll just say it. So IaaS, infrastructure as a service, as everybody knows, this is the most used form of cloud. You have virtual machines, you build virtual machines, you host them, and you service your applications where you manage the virtual machine, the OS, and so on and so forth. We offer platform as a service where Microsoft takes care of the OS. You pick the OS of your choice, whether it's Ubuntu, CentOS, Windows, and then you just run your application and you focus on the application and the data and how the application serves the user. That's the platform as a service. And the final one and the top one is software as a service, where the cloud provider, as in Microsoft, takes care of the whole cycle of the infrastructure, the database, the software, and the application, where the end user takes care of his own users. An example of SaaS is Office 365. Today, when you go into Office 365, you only care about using the email. You don't care about what version of Exchange is running in the background. You don't care about what type of databases. You don't care about the flow of the email, the configuration, the IP addresses, so on and so forth. The only thing that matters to you is opening up an email address for your user, and user gets to have access to that, to his email, and send documents, and so on and so forth. So that's the software as a service. As I will introduce later today, we'll talk about solution built by our partners. As you can imagine, Microsoft can build so much in the product, but we are a partner-based ecosystem where we allow our partners to build products on top of our technology, and this helps us accelerate the ecosystem and help our customer have access to the latest technologies faster and quicker instead of developing everything in-house. Some of the quick solutions that we have. We also have the bring your own license, BYOL. You will hear these terms. The BYO, bring your own device, bring your own license, bring your own scheduler. This is for the researchers. Some of the, if you are any researchers here, this would make sense to them. So we even allow you to bring in your own platform to Azure and continue to use the tools that are familiar to you to deliver the job that you are familiar with. You don't have to learn new tools or new things when you go to the cloud and Azure. You can extend your data center in hybrid mode. We are one of the only companies, I think, in the cloud that allows you to do hybrid data center or extension, where you keep using the investment you have in your on-prem data centers, and at the same time, when you need more power, more storage, you can extend it to the cloud using site-to-site VPN and tools like that. So you don't have to abandon your on-prem. Some of the open source platforms, I'm sure most of you recognize most of this stuff. Some of you even use one of these tools currently in their own data centers or in, on the internet. So familiarize yourself. Just want to quickly tell you that everything that you know exists in the internet, we probably have it in Azure today. If we don't have it, then we will have it. We're actively adding new platform and new open source code to our platform. And finally, back to why are we here today? We're here for that student. We gathered here thinking, trying to make a better future for that student. Let's not keep the focus on building that future for him, but build them for that future. This is where Microsoft trying to help. We give access to Azure for free to our students. We give them $100 worth of Azure for free, where they can go, explore the technology, use it, and hopefully amaze us. So I give back the mic to Claudia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks so much, Jay. And Jay's around the whole day, so please use the opportunity to come and talk to him about Azure. So moving on, let's try and get to the next slide. There we go. We're going to talk about this concept of effective institutions. And one of the, when we talk about effective institutions, there's a number of things that we've listed up there. The one I want to focus on two right now: safety and security, and then buildings and energy efficiency. So safety and security, you actually saw that lovely video just now of what you can do with Azure Cognitive Services. We're working with a university, a rural university in South Africa, where we're using Azure Cognitive Services to completely overhaul the student access management. So the students will no longer use a student ID card. They will be recognized, and we've done a lot of work with the team in the US, facial recognition, especially for darker complexions. And the project's rolling right now, and it's going to be incredibly successful, because we have a lot of problems in South Africa with people swapping student cards and people who are actually not registered at the universities coming in and going into the residences and so on. So it becomes a safety issue. Just on the buildings and energy efficiency management, once again, we've got a great partner solution. It's called Iconics, and Ian from SIS Global is available to talk to you about it. They resell the product. Iconics, Microsoft ourselves, we implemented this at our campus in Seattle, which is 54 buildings. We reduced our energy costs by over 10%, and within 18 months, the product had paid for itself. There are various studies. I mean, universities have got a lot of buildings to manage, so it's definitely something that you want to have a look at. But there's a whole lot more we can talk about, so we're available. Please come and chat to us. And then finally, I want to talk about lifelong learning, and I sort of alluded to this at the beginning of the session, where your students are no longer just the 18-year-olds who are leaving school. Students are adults who are focused on lifelong learning. And how does Microsoft support this? Well, we've got a number. I'm trying to get to the next screen. We've actually partnered with some of the big MOOCs, and I don't know why, there we go. We've partnered with some of the big MOOCs like Open edX, And we have something called the Microsoft Professional Program, where we've got a lot of certifications, IT related, so data science, artificial intelligence, DevOps, cloud computing, you name it, it's there, which we make available to universities. We've created something called the Learning as a Service platform, where you can actually white label this and then allow your own students to go and do these courses. We also have something called the Microsoft Imagine Academy program, which probably many of you know about, where we have literally millions of students across the planet on the program. We offer all our content, our courses at a very reduced price. The certifications cost literally a fraction of what a certification costs going to a commercial institution, so please come and chat to us about this. I know that Jay already talked to you about the Azure for Students program we have. We also have Microsoft Imagine, which makes all our developers tools freely available to students. So there really is a lot we do to empower your students and even your faculty. These programs are available for your faculty as well. So with that, I just want to chat about quickly the higher education transformation framework that we developed. We work with obviously tens of thousands of academic institutions across the planet, and what we saw was a need to help the academic institutions figure out how they start this digital transformation journey. So we came up with a higher education transformation framework. It's freely available to you, and really it's a blueprint that any academic institution can use to start to plan the journey. So what are the elements you should be thinking about in terms of modernizing becoming a smart university, for instance? And then there's a lot of IP, a lot of IP around this, and also some partner solutions we introduce you to, because we obviously don't do everything ourselves. So I'm more than happy to chat to you about it. So I'm available as well today, and as I say, it's all freely available on the web. And finally, as Jay said just now, reiterated by our CEO, Satya Nadella, we will always be partner-led. So even in this region here, we have very few customers. We're a small team that we directly interact with. We really rely on our partner ecosystem to help us drive the digital transformation in our customers. So what I want to do at this stage is introduce you to a few key partners that we've brought along with us. The first one, I don't know if eSolutions is in the room. Yes, they are. Fantastic. So in Ghana, our premier partner in Ghana is a company called eSolutions Ghana, who many of you will already know. eSolutions does many Microsoft services, and I want to introduce you first of all to the COO of eSolutions, Gabriel, so he can just give you a quick 2 minutes on what the company does and who you are.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's great to be with you and to share in this conference. My name is Gabriel, and from eSolutions, as she said. There are a number of things we do to drive and to help organizations to improve. One is consulting. One aspect we've realized is that sometimes there is no strategy in terms of overall acting strategy and roadmap for most institutions. So people at the organizations come and throw in, you need this, you need that, you need this. It becomes a bit scattered. We can help you strategize, get an architecture in place that fits your entire organization, institution, end to end, with a roadmap for implementation. Key among that as Microsoft partners is that we also help you. We have a school portal to manage. People throw in silos, a solution managing this, another solution managing this, and so many silo solutions for students and for various stakeholders within the university. It's important to how do you put all these things together? So we give you a portal that you may not necessarily have to throw things away. That brings all of these together, engage students, engage staff, engage lecturers together, help you to automate your business processes. Most of student engagement, student services, and other things are all manually driven and inundated with delays and lack of visibility across board. The platform helps you to automate all of these mundane processes so that students can have visibility to be able to interact effectively and also drive business activities well. It also gives opportunity integrated with Power BI, which gives you business intelligence to drive decision, have insights into data, and take informed decisions. As a company, we also work with other partners within the ecosystem. We are excited some of them are here. They'll be talking briefly to give you other solutions that integrate into the portal, i.e. Campus management solutions, school management, education management solutions, e-learning platforms, and all these things are integrated seamlessly because they are all built using Microsoft technologies, and so there's that synergy, there's easy integration, and there is all the challenges and bottlenecks are minimized. So we want to encourage you. We are here as local partners. We'll be excited to engage with as many of you on this digital transformation. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Gabriel. Okay, so now I'm going to call the two partners who've traveled very far. I'm going to call on Ian Bailey and Rohit Kira. Ian, if both of you can come up. I mentioned the two student information system platforms that we have. So Ian is from a company called SIS Global. They represent the Unit 4 campus management products, and Rohit is from Campus Management International, representing the Campus Nexus suite. So I don't want them to fight. I think Ian's the tall one and he's standing right next to me. So I'm going to let Ian give you a quick update on SIS Global and what they do, and then we'll hand over to Rohit. Okay.
Morning, everyone, and thanks, Claudia, and thank you for the opportunity to be here in Ghana. It's my first time here, and yeah, it's been a great experience so far. So just a little bit about SIS Global. We've been a Microsoft partner for 10 years. We're a gold Microsoft partner. We, as Claudia said, we are an ICONICS partner as well. So if you're looking at any smart campus type technologies, we can assist you with that. And we are the partner for Unit 4 for Africa. Unit 4 is a Dutch-based student management company that has thousands of implementations around the world in terms of student information system from sort of inquiry through to graduation. But I think importantly in this context, Unit 4 has a very comprehensive research management tool which allows you to manage your research from pre-research, research proposals, managing the whole process of getting your funding from your European, American, etc. Donors, managing that funding, making sure the funding is spent correctly, making sure that the projects are well costed, that all the lessons learned are documented in terms of future funding. So it's very easy to automate the whole student administration of research and funding with the system. And I'd just like to read a comment. The system was developed in conjunction with the universities of Cambridge and Oxford in the UK, and it's been used for many years by them and tweaked and perfected, so to speak, by them. And just a quote from the University of Oxford. They say, without a research, costing and pricing solution, we'd not be able to make the applications for grants, set up costs, or start projects. It would be like trying to fly a 747 without instruments, and that's from one of your compatriots over in the UK. So if you'd like to have more information on the costing and funding and the research management solutions that we offer, please come and chat to me afterwards.
Thank you, Ian, and over to you, Rohit.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Microsoft. My name is Rohit. I'm with Campus Management. We are based in the US, and we have rest of the world operations out of India. We offer solutions that manage everything from a student getting admitted to university all the way to graduation, all of the back office aspects of it. We have about 1,100 installations across the world. We have 14 installations in Africa. We started it about 5 years ago. And all the customers who started out with us are still with us. Globally, we have a 97% retention rate. We also have the ability to work with any pre-existing solution that you may have for, say, plagiarism management, e-learning, research solutions, or we can provide our own solutions to you for those. We've been with Microsoft for a long time. We're working very closely. A lot of our product is based on the Microsoft technologies. We host on Azure, and we are the OEM. We are the IP owners for the product that we sell. We do have local partners as well who work with us to take care of support and so on. We are the Microsoft Partner of the Year, and we look forward to engaging with you. If you have any questions, you want to talk about how we can help your university, if it's an NREN that we want to talk to, please let me know. We'll be right outside. You can come speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. Okay, and that's us. I think I just want Rosso to quickly stand up. You met Rosso yesterday. Rosso is our account executive. So you've got Rosso here, you've got Jay, you've got myself. Senabu, where are you? Senabu is our teaching and learning specialist, so we're all around, we're ready to answer your questions, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks very much. Thanks for the opportunity for letting us all talk to you. Oh, yes. Sorry, one more thing. Rosso's just reminded me, we did give you all some handouts. If you could please fill them in, especially if you do want more information, because that gives us an opportunity to get your contact details and make sure that we get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you to Microsoft. Please put your hands together for them again. All right, so we are officially starting the session, today's conference, and can we have the chair for the first plenary session? All right. Please put your hands together for me. Together with the team members. Together with the members of the panel, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Lucas Chigabati. I'm sitting in for Mr. Peter Kaba, who was to chair this. He's engaged somewhere else. This morning would have 3 presentations. The first one will be by Miss Nobubele Shozi. She's from Divisa, and her presentation will be on the collaborative role of NRENs in the provision of data services. So, over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I think my title just changed a little bit, but it still portrays the same message. So I'm Nobubele Shozi, and I'm a software developer and researcher at DIRISA. And I'll just explain what DIRISA is during this presentation. And I'm also a PhD student at the University of South Africa, researching on data privacy and security. Okay, so for this presentation, that is just the content I will be outlining. So just a brief motivation of why this presentation, and then explaining the cyber infrastructure system in South Africa, also what DIRISA is doing. That will form most of the presentation. And I think just one or two slides at the end that sort of try to highlight the connection between NRENs and the data service that we are providing. Where do I point? Okay, so the motivation for this presentation is, like I said, firstly to discuss the work that DERISA does, and also then to use South Africa as a case study that highlights the role of collaboration between data services and networking services. Okay. I think we all know what cyber infrastructure stands for, or what it means, and that it's infrastructure that is based on computer networks, distributed computers, IT, and it's used for collaborative scientific research without there being boundaries in terms of geographic or time. And the key driver for this now drive towards cyber infrastructure is the growth in data and the need for researchers who want to now do scientific experiments that allow them to collaborate with other researchers and create new knowledge from the data. So at the bottom there is just, I guess, a depiction of what cyber infrastructure is, just on a high level view. Where on the far right, far left, sorry, you have the data collection, basically the data, the sensors, etc. On the far right, you have the scientific users that are using now this data for analysis and collaboration. And then in between that is where you have your networks, basically your IT, metadata standards, ontologies, policies, etc. So then in South Africa, we have what is called the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System, NICIS. That's what it stands for, and it is an advanced integrated cyber platform that offers services for high-performance computing, networking, and data. So if you look at the image at the bottom, you will see the representation of the three components that make up now this National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System of South Africa, where we have firstly the Center of High Performance Computing, CHPC, which is responsible for the computing services. And then we have SANREN, which is responsible for the networking services, so that's the South African NREN. And then we have DERISA, and we are offering the data services. Then above that, we then have the examples of the research environments that we are sort of servicing. So DERISA stands for Data Intensive Research Initiative of South Africa, and that image there just shows our activities, outputs, outcomes, and the kind of impact that we plan to have, whereby looking at our activities is to develop infrastructure and services, to implement standards and policies, develop capacity, expertise, etc. And outputs from that would then be data policies, having skilled practitioners, and a growth in research environments. The top layer above that being outcomes, then a promotion of open science, promotion of good data stewardship, and creation of vibrant research communities that would then impact on achievement of, for example, NDP goals and others. So the high-level objectives of DERISA, firstly, is to build a national research data infrastructure. So that is to build and maintain Tier 1 nodes and services, and also to start Tier 2 domain nodes. So in the next slide, I will just show the federated tier structure that I'm talking about. Our second objective is research data management, where we are building now this data storage infrastructure, and we want researchers to be able to use it to deposit data. The second one is a data management planning tool that we currently have accessible to researchers, which they can use now to create their data management plans and submit to funders, because in South Africa it has become a requirement that when you are applying for funding from the National Research Funder, you need to submit a data management plan. So the tool that we have created allows the researchers to create a plan that meets the funder's requirements. And then we have what we're calling a PID service, Persistent Identifier Service, that allows researchers to mint now digital object identifiers for the data objects that they will be putting in our data storage, and the creation of user policies, practices. Another objective of ours is to develop human capital and skills through, we have an eScience postgraduate program that is currently being run at the University of Joburg and Wits, where it is a master's program that is focused on data science, and also running conferences and training workshops. And then the last objective is to advocate and coordinate, and that is through various research and development initiatives and various stakeholder workshops. So then the tiered federated research data access that I spoke about this is just a representation of it, where DERISA is on the tier 1 level. So there we are building and maintaining the tier 1 level. And above us, we have the tier 0, which is the international. Examples is SKA, where we plan to link into this tier 0. And then below us, we plan to provide support to tier 2 and tier 3, which is the regional and institutional. And we currently have LIFU already set up in the Western Cape in South Africa, and that one is focused on astronomy, and it is a consortium between various universities in the Western Cape, such as University of Cape Town and others. So then just looking at the view of South Africa, the blue circles is currently DERISA's presence in terms of tier 1. So we have petabyte storage that is mirrored between Cape Town and Pretoria. And then the small red circles are then the planned tier 2 nodes. Well, we already have the Cape Town one, the astronomy bioinformatics one, and we plan to expand to other regions in South Africa. And then the big red circle in the Northern Cape is then the SKA. So then just more details into our tier 1 storage architecture at DERISA. We, as I said, we have a 4 petabyte storage. So that one used to be, okay, so DERISA used to be part of the CHPC. So that is why around the 4 petabyte you see CHPC there. And then we are setting up now an additional 8 petabytes. So the 8 petabytes and the 4 petabytes will form part of what we're calling the active data. And that is managed by iRoads and OpenStack, and a user can be able to access that through the data portal. And then we have a 40 petabytes that we are planning on procuring currently, and that one will be used for passive data, so more for archiving. And then a high level of DERISA services is, firstly, we are creating a desubscribe service, which users can use to subscribe as DERISA users, and they can use federated authentication such as Sapphire, ORCID, etc. And then from there, they can then be able to use our other services to be able to deposit data, to discover, download data sets, share it safely, and then prepare now this data for the HPC. And then our core services as well being the data management planning and the provision of DOIs. And throughout this, just providing help and support and user documentation for the users of our services. Okay, so here we're just showing the levels of access that we will be catering for in our national data repository, from the most closed to the open public data. And as I noted that as part of our objectives, we are also developing policies. So with that, we just looked at the whole research data management life cycle and broke it up into those components: acquire, organize, preserve, process, and disseminate. And in the creation of our policies, we try and cover those aspects as we see fit. Then on the left there, we have, for example, acceptable use policies, ingestion, access, preservation, ethics, privacy as well. Because the data that will be stored, we feel we need to cover or have a privacy policy. So we have a privacy policy and disclaimer in place. And that is just a basic roadmap of the plans that DERISA has in terms of our deliverables, tasks from 2019 and beyond. And right now, it is the 8 petabyte and also the 40 petabyte archive that we plan to have this year, and then the federation of federation into the tier 2 nodes. So then to just highlight then the role that these 3 components of data services, networking, computer services, and South Africa plays. Before, the researchers would be seen as being a silo, performing their research maybe on their local computer, and thus not being accessible by any other external people. But now with the cyber infrastructure that we have in place, everything is connected. We have NREN that allows us as DERISA, the data storage, to be able to connect to CHPC for our users to process data and be able to transfer big data. But the next slide shows more information. So then, in terms of NREN, as I said, that NREN provides the high-speed transfers of big data. They also provide search services and EduRoam, Sapphire, etc. through a tenant. And they use DERISA for data storage, and they use CHPC if maybe they would need to process some of their networking data. And as DERISA, we're providing the big data storage and RDM services, DOIs, DMP policies, etc. And we are using the NREN to transfer our big data, using it for Sapphire for authentication of our users. And we also use the assert services to monitor our networks. They perform like regular vulnerability, and penetration testing on our network, and it's actually for free that they do that for us. And then we use HPC then to process the data. And then looking at CHPC, who are responsible for processing big data, they would use NREN to transfer big data and use DERISA for data storage. And apart from that, then there's also HCD that is involved as components of all of these cyber infrastructure components, whereby NREN and CHPC are currently running student compensations. They've been running them for a while. And DERISA will be running our first student datathon in December, where we will have students, we'll provide them with data and hope that they can come up with innovative solutions in terms of that. So that is just part of our HCD skills, knowledge and transfer. We also have workshops, conferences. We have our DERISA conference in June. I think my last slide will just show some dates. Also, can we go back? We perform outreach, and yeah, we do have a heavy focus on privacy. Next. So in conclusion, I just want to highlight that no component of the cyber infrastructure system takes away from the other, and that NICIs shows the importance of how HPC, networking, and data work together. And it balances the cyber infrastructure system, and even though each component is independent, it is still reliant on the other. Okay, I tried to put our website and email there, but it's not visible. But I just wanted to share, okay, we're also on Twitter. I just wanted to share some dates there. So from the 24th to the 28th of June, we're having an outreach to high school learners where we will be teaching them Python. This will be done in Pretoria amongst schools in the location or township, as we call it, in South Africa. So there we will have the children or the high school learners for 5 days where we will teach them basic sort of A+ course. We'll give them all computers to take apart, put them back together, make sure they're working, install Linux, teach them the basics of Linux, Python, for the 5 days. So that is sort of our outreach program that we're starting this year, and we're hoping that it will grow every year and it can expand to other provinces in South Africa. Then from the 2nd to the 4th of July this year, that we will have our second Derisa sort of conference-y workshop, where for 3 days we have sort of a similar setup where we have people come to talk about research data management related talks. And yeah, it's open to everyone to submit an abstract, and yeah, I think all the information will be up on the website soon. And then as part of the NICI's conference that is held every year in December, I think it's still called the CHPC conference actually, we are going to then run our first student datathon competition, and throughout the year we will be having training for now these students who will be participating in the competition. And the plan is also from the outreach to the high school learners, we plan to create a team out of those students that will be competing against now the undergraduate students in the student data competition in December of this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shozi. I think if you have any questions, just write them down. We'll take the questions at the end. Our second presenter from ICANN, Mr. Yaovi Atohoun, will be speaking on Identifier technology, health indicators. No, you point this way. This way. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not working. So you change it for you. Yeah. So they'll do it for you.
Okay. We can go back to the first slide. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Yaovi Atohoun. I'm working for ICANN, and we want to thank WACREN for giving us the opportunity to have a presentation. Just because we find that it's very important for this community to be involved in what ICANN is doing. So I'm going to talk about one of the projects we are working on, but before that, I'll make an introduction to ICANN, what we do, because we realize that we still need to talk more about what is ICANN and how people can contribute to our activities. So on the next slide, the next one, we have ICANN focusing mainly on 3 areas. We have the first one, which is the domain names. I'm sure before coming to this workshop, we went through registration and we use our email addresses. And also in our various organizations, we have websites. And then for our website, we have what we call the address or the URL of the websites. So for all these email, we use what we call the domain names. So one main area of ICANN's coordination role is related to the domain names. So, but the part of the domain name, we are also more focused on is what we call the top-level domain name. So if you take the business card from someone, so the label you have at the end, at the right, like .com, .org, .edu, .gh. So the last label is what we call the top-level domain name. So we have a limited number of top-level domain names, and then to have a top-level domain name, it has to go through a process. So this role is performed by ICANN, and then for countries, we have a country code, and ICANN is not defining the code. ICANN is using the ISO code. So for countries, you have the 2-character code for countries, and you have also the 3-character codes for country. But so far, we are using the 2 codes, ISO code for countries. So as an example, recently, some months ago, ICANN delegated the .ss to South Sudan because the country code for South Sudan is .ss. ICANN just use the ISO code, the 2-character for South Sudan. But before that, it was not delegated. So ICANN is the organization delegating the top-level domain. So this is for the countryside, but we have also what we call the generic top-level domain names that are more generic, like .com, .org. But today we have more than 1,200 possibilities, names. We have more than 1,200. So we are no more limited to .com, .org, .info, we have .africa, we have .hotels. So we have many of them. So for these names to be in the system, ICANN went through what we call a process, a policy process. The community was involved. So that is very important to know that you can be part of this process. So it was a long process because people had to agreed on some name that could not be delegated. Like there was a long discussion on .xss. Because some people say that it's good to have a top-level domain for pornography, for example, so that if you want to go there, you know that it's the top-level domain to use. But some people are against. So we have a lot of domain names. So name is the one focus of ICANN. The second one is the numbers. Numbers, when we talk about numbers, you have the IP addresses, and then you have what we call the autonomous system numbers. So this is what the technical people use to configure a network. So that is the second focus of ICANN. And then the third one is the parameter protocol. So ICANN is managing a database for that one, but working with many other organizations like ISOC, Internet Society, and IETF. So for academia, it is very important to know more about IETF. So if you go to ietf.org, there are a lot to do. So students, you as researchers, you can contribute to what we call as protocols. So we have document we call requests for comment. And so far, I'm not sure that we have more than 2, I think, RFC, produced by from the African community. So there is a lot to do. So on the next slide, what we see is the way ICANN is working. We have the staff, which is the organization part. Today we have like 382 or close to 400 staff working for ICANN globally. And then the second part of the ICANN ecosystem, you have what we call the community, and we are all part of this community when we talk about the community. So the community is playing a very big role in what ICANN is performing every day. In this community, on the next slide, you can see we have 2 main groups in this community. There's a group we call the supporting organizations, and then another group we call advisory committees, group for committees. And in this group, for example, you have representatives from each government. So we call it GAC, Governmental Advisory Committee. So each country delegate people to represent the country in this committee. Because if there is a policy in discussion, these people will bring the view of the government to what we call GAC. And today we still have some countries with no GAC representative in ICANN. So it is very important, because I do not see a country today where we are not using internet. So the policy is affecting everyone. The policy is affecting also government, academia. So we should have involvement in what is happening. So on the next slide, when you have it, you'll see various ways to contribute, to participate in what ICANN is doing. I mentioned yesterday that the first public meeting of the year ended in Kobe in Japan. So from your office, or from your home, from your mobile phone, or from your smartphone, you can also attend these meetings. Today, we have this option. So remotely, you can also participate and contribute to this meeting. So in each of these meetings, we have more than like 30 parallel sessions like this. Each of these ICANN meetings, discussion about various topics during each mission. So the next one is locally happening in Africa, in Marrakesh, in Morocco. So we hope that you can attend physically or remotely, because there are a lot of topics currently being discussed within the ICANN community. So you have also options. If you go to the next slide, we have some programs where we help the community to contribute. We have some programs, week sponsorship program for people, anyone, which we call the fellowship program. And these people selected can participate physically. I can take care of their travel accommodation, and also we have a special program for these people during the meeting. And we have one dedicated especially for youth. So this one we can share with your students, the Next Gen program. So we give opportunities to students to come to ICANN meeting and to present various initiatives. So this is the Next Gen program. So the information on the next slide is what we call the leadership positions. So anyone in this room can be a member of the ICANN board, anyone in this room. So we have open positions now, and the deadline for applying is March 22nd of this year for applying. So mainly for Africa, we'll have at least one seat for the board position. So if you go to the website, ICANN.org, you look for a nomination committee, and so you'll see more detail and requirements about this position. I can tell you that you don't need to really be really involved, because some years ago when I was in the nomination committee, we had people, because we are looking for skills. They didn't know too much about ICANN, but some of them were able to join ICANN. So it's also a question of skills and also geographical balance. So for Africa, I can tell you that this year we'll have a seat in the board of ICANN. It's not really on the board. There's a seat available for what we call the ALAC, At-Large Advisory Committee. You remember I mentioned some committees. So there is a position also in the ALAC. So if you are interested, you have some times, because it's a question of also time, to have some time available to contribute through phone calls, through mailing lists, etc. And the deadline again is March 22nd. As you can see on the next slide, you have the complete timeline. So let's move to the topic of the day, which is the identifier on the next slide. And before going to this topic, on the next slide, you see also again a definition on the next one, what we call label in the domain names. So if you remember, I mentioned top-level domain name. I mentioned some example like .com, .org, .info, .africa. And today you have also domain names in characters or languages different than the ASCII characters when you consider characters. So today is very important to know that one. You can have a business card from someone with an email address which has some characters you cannot read. because it is in a language or a script you don't know. So we have also to know that I know in this room we have some developers, we have some decision makers. So when people are building systems for you, they have to consider that today we have domain names and email addresses using characters that are not necessary characters from A to Z. So we have other characters. I'm not talking about content. So content today on the internet, we have contents in many languages, but we are talking about domain names. So domain names today, we have them in other character or scripts. And the academia also is playing a very important role in this one. I remember some years ago, we did a presentation of what we call the internationalized domain names. In Ethiopia, for example, the leader of this process was the academia in Ethiopia because they have their own script. So they were able to work with ICANN to define the rules. So in this rule, we have the characters in their script that can be used to write label. So for everyone in this room, I think we are using various languages in our countries. So, but many languages in Africa are using the Latin script. But even we are using the Latin script in Africa today, in our languages, we have some characters. When you see them, they are different from A to Z. So it is for the community to help ICANN. And ICANN has tools to work with the community. We do that through workshops. So anytime you are ready, you talk to our team, and we see how we can help you to produce that document that consider these characters in your language. So this is happening at the top level domain. So at the second level domain also, you have domain names, but ICANN is not in charge of the second level domain. Once I can delegate the top level, so the organization in charge of the top level domain manage the second level domain, manage the top level, manage the second one. So we call them the registries. So the registries are companies, organizations managing the country code top level domain. In some countries, for example, you have universities managing the country code of the country. So this also showing the role that academia has been playing a long time ago, but we want academia to be more involved. And also from the second level, you can have the third level. In this, on the screen, you have WW. So you can have also administration. So when you have your domain, you can have many subdomains as you want. This is defined by what you want to do. And on the next slide, what you have is some terms that are important in this project we are talking about. So we have on our mobile phone, on our computers, what we call the clients or the stop resolvers. When you type an address in a browser, for example, this is the program which is going to send a query through the system. And then also you have what we call the resolvers. So these are the system that look for the answer for you. And then we have also what we call the authoritative name servers. So these servers have the information about the zone. So these are very important terms. So what we have, or we are doing in this project, we call ITHI, Internet Technology, Identifier Technology Health Initiative. So we want to see the health of the identifiers. So this is why we are working on this project in ICANN. Till from 2015 to 2016, that was the first phase of the project to define the problem, what was the problem, have a discussion with the community. Again, we did that through mailing lists, through the website, through meetings. And then also we work with RIR. So one of the RIR is going to present just after me. It is AFRINIC, so the Regional Internet Registries. So these are the organizations receiving block of IP addresses from ICANN and then allocating to your various organizations. So today people don't know that they can go directly to this RIR. You can go to them, People are still limiting to their internet provider. Sometimes they give you 1 IP, 2 IP. So please, I'm lucky that our colleague from AFRINIC is here. You can talk to him, and then I'm sure that he'll give you as much you want as you are able to justify the use of these IP addresses. So now we are in phase 2 of this project we call ITHI, and we have platform. We are looking for partners, and we are getting data. We are making also available. If you see on the next slide, what you see is very simplified, a dashboard. But if you go to the website of this project, which is ITHI, just you tap this one on ICANN website, you go to the website of the project. We have more like 100 metrics, and because in each metrics we have some sub-metrics. Like what we are trying to get are names that are not used, but that people try to use, and then this request goes to the root server. The root is let's say the top. So when you type something in the browser, for example, and the system has to bring you somewhere, so it goes first to the root, and the root will try to find also where to direct you to. So there are sometimes many requests normally not supposed to go to the root, but they are going to the root. So this project is also trying to see what are these names, or normally not supposed to be used or not delegated, that are sent to the root as query. And then you have a lot, like you can see the third line, you have what we call the DNSSEC. Is a protocol we are trying to tell people to implement. This one is bringing also a level of security to the domain name system. So when you have validation by what we call resolver DNS validation, is thus like asking someone to sign the document for you. Like if you bring me a letter now, the letter is not signed, maybe I'm not comfortable. I'm not sure that is a real letter from the person supposed to send it. So DNSSEC is validation is something like that. So the information that the system is going to send us is validated. The system is trying to see if it's the real information. So this is, in summary, the DNSSEC, and then it is a protocol also bringing also security to the domain name system. And many countries now, many CCTLDs, if I talk about countries, they are implementing this protocol. So we are trying also to see, when we go to the next slide, you have more metrics there on the next slide. We want to see like resolver concentration. So where we have more resolver concentrate. So when we have this information, it means that where we have this concentration, some things need to be done there. On the next slide, you have the full list of the main metrics. There are 8. So some of the source, we take them from ICANN, and then other we get them from partners. So on the next slide, when you go there, the next slide again, you'll see that we have internet data for some metrics. Compliance department, which is ICANN. The DAR project, is a domain name abuse reporting system. So we are trying to see, to have more information about domain name abuse, which is something related to security. So the L root, for example, for information, if you want to host an instance of the L root server, you can host that in your university. So we can provide in the information what you need to do, or in your organization is something you can do. So some measurement, we are doing them with partners. And also we have a contract with AFRINIC, for example, one of the registry. And on the next slide, we are not taking personal information. We are just installing. If you move to the next slide, we are just helping with partners. So we have tools they install, and then they have an account, and then they have data also collected, and then share with our project. And before going to the end, the next slide again, what we do is that we are providing a software that is not heavy to be run on system. You can see the site of the program there on the slide is not very heavy at all. And on the next slide again, what I want to tell you, people just agreed to work with us. We install tools. They have an account, they create an account, and then they have scripts uploaded. And they can also share what they have with data. If you move to the next slide, you see that we have many partners today working with ICANN. So we are very glad that the Cape Coast University, through the leadership of Professor Ni, is playing a very important role in this project. So they are contributing to this project. And then it is an appeal again for those who are interested. There is an email on the slide. You just send an email to ITHI.info@icann.org if you are interested in this project, because the data you are trying to collect, you can also use data to prevent things that can happen, bad things that can happen is a way, or you can also share this data with other partners. So briefly, this is what I want to share with you about this health Identifier Technology Health Initiative project. So if you have more information needed, we share some flyers, but you don't have all the metrics on that flyer outside. But if you go to the website, you have more information about the project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yaovi. Our last presenter, Mr. Keessun Fokeerah, is from AFRINIC, located in Mauritius.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for providing us with this slot for the presentation. So, as soon as they're ready, concerning AFRINIC, I'll just be adding on what Yaovi, my friend, just spoke about. Sorry, he really provided much information on how ICANN is working and the communities. So AFRINIC also is a community-based organization, and you'll see there are many things that you can do, and you can make a change at AFRINIC as well in case you see something not working as per what you would like to see. Next slide, please. So briefly, we'll be talking about resources, so IPv4, IPv6, ASNs. Concerning IPv4, as you already know, it's a limited resource, going really rare now. So where we are at AFRINIC and details on how things are progressing, you'll find some details later. Concerning the key services of AFRINIC, the main services that AFRINIC provides and how you can make use of it. Also, regarding membership, and since we have a lot of universities and educational networks who are here, so we can make use of this time and give you more details of how you can actually come to AFRINIC and the benefits that you already can get from AFRINIC as well. Last thing would be about policies and how they affect you. So I hope that it helps you further. Next slide, please. So AFRINIC as an organization, we are based in Mauritius, and we are a small company of around 45 staff, but the impact of what we do is all across the continent. So everything from IP resources, trainings, and also services, you'll get it from AFRINIC. We do have around 1,600 members, so this is something that is still growing, and we hope that we can have some of you as members and help you with making your networks better as well. Next slide, please. So concerning AFRINIC as an overview, you'll see that over the members that we have, not all of them are actually getting V6 from us. Some of them have ASNs, but not all of them. And also concerning the routing registry, there's very less people who are actually using it. So the impacts of what it is and why it's important, you'll hear about it as we go through the next slide. So coming back to IPv4, like I was saying, it's a very scarce resource now. So as of now, we are less than /8 remaining. In 2017, we already reached the soft landing phase 1. So details of what it is and what it means is that when AFRINIC reaches the law/8, the way that we issue resources changes. So basically, if you wait too much, there are things that would again change when you reach phase 2. And the implications of that is in the next slide again. Next slide, please. So as at now, we are in phase 1 of the soft landing. Maximum number of resources that you can get from AFRINIC in one request is a /13 or IPv4, which is roughly around 512,000 IPs. However, when we reach the loss/11, meaning 2 million IPs remaining, we will now limit those amount of IPs that can be requested in one request as a /22, which is only of 1,000 IPs. So when you check on the slide, I've mentioned that 4 million IPs is what is remaining until we reach the phase 2 of the soft landing. So universities, RENs, and even other organizations, if you don't have your own IP addresses, the challenges that you're already facing, and if you have a big network, if you come in phase 2, you will be limited to 1,000 IPs only. Next slide, please. So the key services of what we provide, we do a lot of trainings around the continent. So we have been giving classroom-based trainings and counseling, but now our training team is giving a lot of effort and making emphasis on the actual deployment of IPv6. So if you have IPv6 already from AFRINIC and you don't really know how to actually deploy it, you can contact us and our team will help you with the actual deployment of that. We also do the routing registry, as I was mentioning, which is used to help and secure your BGP announcements. Because to remember is, if you're using pure BGP, if someone else is doing a hijack of your resources and they have a better preference, everything is routed to them and your traffic is impacted. We do also have other services like DNSSEC and OPKI, like Yaovi was mentioning DNSSEC. So if you're interested in using those services as well, we can help you to actually implement it and configure it on your network. Lastly, about reverse DNS, we do provide support for reverse DNS. You can create your domain objects, specify the zones, and also specify the name servers on which you're actually maintaining the reverse delegations. Coming to resources again, so membership is in two categories. You have the LIers and the end users. The main difference is LIers would be mainly ISPs or even RENs, where you are using the IPs not only on your own network, but actually giving out to other third parties. And the end users would be just like banks or universities, where you're actually using the IPs on your own network. Something to remember is, if currently you're limited to one IP or /29 or something like that from your upstream providers, especially the universities, it's something that I always say when we meet the members in the different countries. If we continue like this in Africa, we'll never have something like Facebook and new services that are actually developed by the students, because you're actually limiting them by putting them behind a lot of NAT, and they cannot actually put anything on the internet directly. So if you're interested, you can actually get resources, have a portion of your network, if not the whole network, provision with the proper IPv4 or IPv6 public IPs, where the students will actually have more potential and more access to internet and actually make use of it more than when you're currently NATing a lot of the IPs. So coming to why it's important to get your own resources, it helps you to actually have a better multi-homing. So if you have 2/29s, for example, right now from two providers, when there's a downtime on one of the operators, you already know that half of the network, if not critical services, are already going down. But if you have your own prefix from AFRINIC and you're doing proper BGP and proper routing, when there's one provider going down, you don't have to actually worry, because it will still go through the other provider. Also, when there is a change in your upstream provider, you don't have to go and change all the IPs on the different services. Everything will be seamless. You just have to change your BGP announcements and peer with the new guy. Next slide, please. So coming to RENs and educational networks, if you and universities, so if you don't already are benefiting from it, if you want to get resources from AFRINIC to be used exclusively for research and educational purposes, and which are non-for-profit, you can actually benefit from 50% discount at AFRINIC, both on your assignment or allocation fee, but also on the membership fees that you'll be paying. So if you are a university and you want to actually have more details on that, I'll be around, you can speak to me, and I can counsel you and better help you on how you can proceed. Next slide, please. If you're interested in knowing how you can actually enroll as a member, it's very simple. You just have to go on the link nmlp.afrinic.net. There are a couple of questions that would be asked based on the policies and our internal business rules, and you can actually send your request for IP resources and AFRINIC membership. So if you need more help, again, I can help you with that. You can come to me, we can speak about it. Next slide, please. Concerning the persons and organizations who are already a member, as we mentioned, the IPv4 is going scarce, and if you have new projects or you plan to have actual growth on the existing services, and your current prefix doesn't allow you to grow, you can actually come to AFRINIC for more resources right now. And the basis of what we'll actually use to evaluate your request is that you have to be in good standing, your contacts should be up to date, and you have a contract that has to be signed with AFRINIC. But also, you have to show 90% utilization on your previous assignments or allocations. And of course, you have to provide an IP addressing plan, which really details how you want to use the prefix. Next slide, please. Coming to the interesting part, the fun part, we can say, is AFRINIC policies. And AFRINIC policies are very important because they actually impact everyone, even the members and the non-members. So if you want to be very active and actually help to develop the policies in our region, you can actually do that on the various mailing lists that we have. But also, just to also add to what Yaovi was saying, everyone in this room is part of the internet community, the AFRINIC community, so you can actually propose a change or propose a new policy if you want to. If you need any help with that, we can actually help you. And also to understand is, when you come to AFRINIC, everything that we use for the evaluation or to provide a service is all based on policies. So if you come to AFRINIC and there's something that we ask, is always based on the policy, and if you don't like it, you can actually go for a change, because as I said, AFRINIC is a community-based organization. Next slide, please. Coming to AFRINIC policies, we have 23 policies already implemented. There are 7 that are new policies or updates in the current policies. So we have actually 2 policies relating to the soft landing policy where people don't really agree to the current one. So they can actually ask for a change on that, and they already did it. So if you want to actually support that, you can do it on our mailing list. And right now we have 1 policy which is currently pending implementation. Next slide, please. So the recent policies that we have implemented is, there was a transfer policy that was proposed and approved. So the transfer policy is only limited to IPv4, and it's only within the AFRINIC service region. So if someone wants to transfer, for example, an ISP wants to transfer /24 or bigger to another organization, right now you can do it. Earlier on, it was not allowed, and it was formally forbidden in the RSA, but we have implemented the policy, and the RSA has been updated as well. And we do have a lame delegation policy that was implemented recently, where we actually make sure that the reverse DNS and the name servers in those records are active and actually responding to queries. So trying to make the actual reverse DNS more effective and actually being accurate. Next slide, please. Some recommendations. If you want to participate, you can actually go on our website. You'll find lists with an s.afrinic.net where we have all the different mailing lists. You can subscribe and start participating. But also, you can read through all the FAQs, the documentation that we usually publish. And also, something else to note is we do have 2 public meetings every year. The next one is in June 2019 in Kampala, Uganda. And we have a program just like where ICANN, Yaovi was speaking about, the fellowship program, where you can attend the meeting and AFRINIC actually supports you with the airfares and also for the accommodation. So the last day to apply for fellowship is today, in fact. So if you want to make use of it, just go on our website, you look for fellowship, and you can actually apply for that. Lastly, if you need any further help or you want to actually get in touch with us, you can send an email to hostmaster@afrinic.net or IRR@afrinic.net for the routing registry. Next slide, please. So thank you very much. In case you need more help, I'll be around. You can come to me and we can speak about your specific request, or I can help you with anything that you need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The panel will now take questions. So if you have a question, you raise your hand and we'll recognize you so you can put your question.
Thank you very much once again. My question goes to the South African lady with regards to the data center implementation. I would like to find out what are some of the security monitoring tools that they have put in place when it comes to data aggregation and as well as their backup procedures. Thank you.
My name is Alain Ayina, CTO WACREN. I have a question for Yaovi and a question from my good friend from Mauritius, AFRINIC. Yaovi, your presentation was about the health indicator of the unique identifier. So can you help us understand a little bit more about what is the definition of health? Because health is not as trivial as it could be in them, but if we're about to measure the health of the unique identifier system, maybe we need to have some discussion on what we mean by health. Then my question to AFRINIC is, there have been some transition going on for the routing registry. Okay, can you tell us a little bit where we are, and if for those who has the route object in RIPE and RDB database, shall they be so worried? Is AFRINIC working to migrate automatically this object in AFRINIC routing registry, or they should individually create their own object in AFRINIC routing registry? Thank you.
Okay, so the panel will give the answers, and then we take the next round of questions.
Okay, so in terms of security monitoring, the first thing we have is security-related policies, where we try to address issues of privacy, security through that. But in terms of like the physical, technical security monitoring, as I said in my presentation, that is handled by SANDREN. So they are the ones that we have given the responsibility of looking at the vulnerability testing, penetration testing, as they already offer CERT services to DERISA. Also at DERISA, we have a team of system administrators who also look at the network security of our systems. And as a software developer, when we are then creating the software, the services that would be used by the researchers, we just ensure that we use secure software development. So for example, when as we're developing this data deposit tool there, we sort of try to secure the link from the researcher and them depositing the tool, depositing the data into our infrastructure through simple things like ensuring that we're using secure line HTTPS, security features like that. And backup procedures, that is also handled by our team of system administrators who just regularly back up our data. But I think in the infrastructure slide that I showed, we did point out that we are sort of missing the disaster recovery and failover section in terms of our storage architecture. So that is also something that we are planning to look at in the future.
Thank you, Alain, for the questions. When we talk about health, we just want to apply to something we are mentioning every day. If you say you are in good health, so you are doing well, you are doing well. But when we come to our presentation, when we mention unique identifiers in ICANN ecosystem, we refer to the domain name system and the IP addresses, the domain names and the IP addresses, and the two they are linked by the domain name system. So we want to see how is the domain name system. So things we are trying to look at are something like traffic between user servers. We want to look at the root side, what is going to the root side, because some of the queries were normally supposed to go to the root side. Some domain names are not delegated normally, so normally queries for this domain name should not go there. So when we want to see DNSSEC, because DNSSEC is being implemented now to improve security, DNSSEC will not solve everything, but it's at some level it will help in security aspect. So we want to see how many resolvers are validating, because technical people today, they are installing, but they are not necessarily activating the validation. So, so that is one thing. And also the DNS implementation also is something different. So we have people who implement DNSSEC, and we also are the resolver side, people activate. So some people are not activating DNSSEC validation. So these are the things we try to look at. Like we want to see how many phishing domain per 1,000 registered names is something we want to also get. We want to see concentration of, in one of the slides, we want to see resolver concentration, where the resolver are concentrated. If you see that most of the concentration are going somewhere, that means that this part is very important, and maybe we have to watch this part. So broadly, this is what I want to try to bring as answer. And as I say, Prof. Ni in the room, he may have something to add. He's everywhere a pioneer. So in Africa, I think in this also academia, you can see on the slide that Cape Coast University is playing a big role. I'm sure maybe he has one or two words to add to help me, Prof.
Yes. Yeah, so they'll pass the mic to Prof.
I don't know what to say, but colleagues from Computer Science Department and the IT Directorate participated in making some measurements, and one of the colleagues who did the measurements is actually here. Perhaps he might want to say something, but the main idea here is that if you continue to collect data, you begin to see deviations in your own patterns. And that will include which places users of your network go in terms of identifiers. You will begin to see where identifiers are having challenges resolving. You'll be able to also see where things are going well. And then you could use that to advise the community to improve their services. For example, I'm sure you are aware that some African CCTLDs have recently been used for what you might consider non-acceptable purposes, including spam and things of that sort. All these things can only be gathered from continuous and detailed measurements, which are part of the health indicator studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take it up.
Thank you, Alain, for the question. Concerning the routing registry, in fact, if I take it since the beginning, AFRINIC didn't have a routing registry way back, let's say, around 9 years ago. And everyone was encouraged, so any member who wanted to create a root object, they went to RIPE or REDB, you have Level 3 and some of the other guys. But since around 5-6 years ago, we already went live with our routing registry, and ever since we have been trying to encourage all the members to use it. So compared to REDB, for example, the routing registry at AFRINIC, we give it as a free service. Whereas if you're using REDB right now, you have a certain fee that you have to pay every year. Coming to the changes that Alain was mentioning, there was a project at RIPE called the AFRINIC IRR homing project. So what it means is that the community at RIPE didn't want the actual root objects that were created way back when we didn't have a routing registry at AFRINIC to still stay. Because there was a lot of bogus and you can say wrong information added, because at that time they didn't really have a way to actually validate if these were authentic or wrong announcements or hijacks, etc. So in order to stop that, they started the IRR homing project for AFRINIC, and last year they actually started the first step, which is the locking of the routing registry at RIPE. So right now, you can no longer add any root object if you come from any region outside of RIPE. And at AFRINIC, what this implied also was our members started to make use of our routing registry more, but also some of them had mentioned that they don't really like the idea of having authentication via the OATNUM, so the ASN and also the V4. So we already changed the codes of the routing registry. So right now, you just need to authenticate via the V4, and then you can add your root object. And you no longer have to do the dual authentication of ASN as well. So concerning the actual migration, we do have tools that help our members to move to AFRINIC. So we are staff, we give the support. We have documentation that is really detailed online. And we have a tool where you can actually specify the prefixes, so V4, V6, and it lists all the actual root objects that exist in the other routing registries, and you just put your maintainer password, which is confidential to you, to migrate it to AFRINIC. So in a way, we made it really easy for the members to move to our routing registry. But concerning your question about if it will be automatic, it's not going to be automatic, because as I mentioned at RIPE, when people had added the root objects, there is a lot of wrong information as well. So if we just bring it to our routing registry, we'll be replicating the issues that are already there. So what we are trying to do, and during our outreach to different regions and conferences and even meeting members, we are helping and encouraging them to move to AFRINIC. And if you remember on my slide, there was a graph where you could actually see the number of members using it. So roughly right now, we are above 50% of members using the routing registry, but a lot of them are still using the paid service from REDB or using the others like Level 3, for example. So I think I covered everything that you asked. Just one last thing to add is we do have a mailing list called the DB Working Group, which is specific to the WHOIS, the routing registry, and anything related to that. So if anyone wants to actually put an idea or put a proposal for a change on the way that we are doing things, you can do it. So I hope that this helps, Alain. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? One or two more questions, and then yes, Alan.
Yes, I'm in the queue. Okay. Two questions again. Yaovi, if I want to go to ICANN board, because it look like you want some African to go, okay? So, how shall I approach this? So, because it look like there are many ways. I go through non-com or I go through certain constituency. So, can you briefly help me to understand what is the place where I can have a big chance as African? Then, my second question is, what if we run out of V4? So, and when do you expect, according to your statistic, that we will run out of V4? And what will happen then?
Let's take the last question from.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Thomas William Jefferson, and I work with Microsoft on cybersecurity-related matters. My question or request goes to the South African lady, and we are working on project with cybersecurity and related matters with the World Bank and also other partners. We want to see if South Africa can collaborate with Ghana on cyber infrastructure and other things to improve the efficiency and also security matters in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Okay, the very last question. The panel members, as you know, would be around so we can engage them further after this session. So we'll take the last question from you.
Yeah, my question goes to Yaovi. You're talking about the root zone or the root servers. And some time ago, I think the root zone, is it a root zone or the root server? Yeah, it used to be owned by the US. Currently, is it still being owned by the US? Right, that's my question.
Thank you. I will start with the one from Malawi now. Is an opportunity to tell you that I'm sure that we have people in this room that can be in the next ICANN board. Before joining ICANN, I was in the community and I had the opportunity to be one of the nomination committee member, 2010 and 11. So we have a committee, a nomination committee, and they have all the requirements on the ICANN website now if you go there. So they are looking, sometimes they look for a specific profile when they want to fill position in the board. We have 16 seats. But what is true now is that because of geographical balance, for Africa, we can have 1 or 2 people to join the ICANN board. And you have all the details on the website, but me, in my personal opinion, I see people in this room that can be member of the board. The staff is not involved in that one. It's the nomination committee which is doing the selection, not the ICANN staff organization doing that. So all the requirements are there on the website. Sometimes, as I said, you may not be very familiar with ICANN community, but if you have the skills needed, so you can join the ICANN board. So it is open till 22nd of this month to apply for the position. So apart from ICANN board, we have also the at-large advisory committee. So the nomination committee is also going to select one person. Also about the root, we have the root zone and we have the root servers. So we have 13 root servers, but we have just one zone file, what we call zone file, so it is distributed. But I also mentioned something like root server instances. We have between the 13, ICANN as an organization is managing the one that is the L root. So we have A, B, and we have a 13, we have L root server managed by ICANN. So if in your organization you want to host an instance of this server, so you just contact ICANN, and the device is one is about 2,000, and we have another option about 10,000. So you purchase the device, and then you can also you can say you have a root server installed in your organization. That is the reality. But we have 13 root servers, but we have one root zone file. And then AFRINIC also, we are working, sometimes AFRINIC is helping to help you get equipment for the root server. I think that are the question for ICANN. Thank you.
Okay. So the simple answer to that is yes. We can maybe have an offline conversation in terms of that. What I just wanted to say as well is that when you sort of look at what I presented, there's a lot of NREN representation in Africa, there's a lot of HPC representation in Africa, and what is missing is the national sort of overlook that data service, what DERISA is trying to provide. So it will be nice to engage with other African countries in terms of that. And even though you highlighted cybersecurity, maybe we can still talk about DERISA and also assist in terms of helping you achieve what DERISA is trying to achieve in Ghana. So we can talk offline.
Thank you very much. You'll agree with me, we've had a very capable panel this morning. So I'd like us to put our hands together to appreciate them. Okay, so here's what is going to happen next. You. Alan? Oh, he. Oh. There's a question that we've skipped, so just do it quickly and then.
Yeah, so quickly to respond to Alain's question. Concerning the V4, as I mentioned, we are currently 4 million IPs away from the phase 2. So the phase 2, based on the number of resource requests that we have been approving and the trend that we have been seeing, we expect it to be before December of this year. So roughly around September, October, we'll be already in the phase 2. So talking about the actual depletion, like running out and not having any IPs, like IPv4 remaining, so everyone will have to move towards V6 then. So the V4, if it's 0, you cannot actually get more because it would be already gone. So then you'll have to go for V6 and you'll be forced to do it. And right now you're already getting V6 as free if you're already a member with IPv4. So you can make use of that as much as possible. And just one last thing, not really related to your question, but concerning the root server, AFRINIC actually supports critical infrastructure like the root servers and IXPs, where you can actually get 100% discount when you're trying to get resources for those specific use. So in case you need more help or more details, you can in fact contact us and I'll be around so I can help you with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, we will break for coffee now, but there's a very important event, 5 minutes, that will happen now. We on this table will descend and join you to witness the signing of an MOU. And so we thank you very much for your cooperation, and I hope that you would spend the next 5 minutes to witness this event. Umu? Thank you very much.
So as you know, we had the LibSense workshops earlier in the week. I will talk briefly about that just before the closing. But what's related to it is the WACREN's intent to build out some data hosting infrastructure. So we are working with the National Informatics Institute of Japan, leveraging a relationship that we have built in the last year to sort of take their expertise and the knowledge we've sort of developed in around open science and with our SciGaia project, and use that to forge ahead together. So what's important about this relationship is that there's some areas as well that NII is just started to develop, especially in the areas of research data management. So we see, and because we have similar sort of profiles, NII is a research institute that is an inter-university collaboration. So this slant is also NREN driven. So this collaboration, this MOU is between WACREN and NII, and the output that the community will see is the hosted repository pilot, and a layer on top of that starts to acquaint our community with research data management. So with that,
I had to make sure Kazu was suitably dressed, as you can see.